you take one package? I did. Yeah, no, it's sitting right here. Oh, you know what? But you took it out the package.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I did, oh, you know what I did?
All right. All right, let's call this meeting to order. First portion of our meeting is a public hearing regarding the use of our 2024 CDBG grant funds. The council is recommending, and the city is recommending that we use this for street repairs. And the grant amount is a 3-year grant amount. We got the first portion of it last year. So we've got $132,000 coming our way in CDBG funds. And we think it's best to use that on street repairs that have been neglected for some time. And specifically, without a street assessment, we're looking at Bermuda Court as one of the streets that's in its worst condition. With that said, I'd like to invite anybody from the public to come up and have a word on how to use these CDBG funds.
Pat Dolly, 3714 St. Anne's Lane. This is why I wanted to talk about. So St. Anne's Lane between Augusta and Florissant Road is just a mess. Right? You go down it, you go down it, it's just a mess. And then between Augusta and Natural Bridge, towards Natural Bridge, there's these, I mean, the potholes are like this deep. There's 2 of them. That's all oh, and the stop sign. I don't know if that's our responsibility, but the stop sign is grayed out.
And I think it's on order.
Okay, it's like, just,
Yeah,
the sun hit it too much. It just couldn't take it
It's
anymore.
gone.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Anybody else? This is your opportunity.
Not on this item.
If there's no more,
I did.
if there's no more comment regarding the CDBG funding, then I'll close this portion of the public hearing. All right, to start our regular meeting, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Cleveland?
Here.
Councilman Sachsen-Herman?
Here.
Councilman Jackson?
Here.
Councilman Evans?
Here.
Councilman Nelson?
Present.
Councilman Collins?
Here.
Councilwoman Russell?
Here,
Councilwoman Campbell?
she's on Zoom.
I seen her on
She
Zoom.
was on Zoom.
Councilwoman Campbell, if you're on, I think you're muted still.
I think we lost her.
We have. Thank you. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And reminding us of why we're here, the vision of the city of Normandy is to be a safe and family-friendly community that is the historic heart of North St. Louis County, with a business corridor that attracts visitors from the entire region. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the July 11, 2023 regular city council meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes, motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of minutes of the July 27, 2023 City Council Workshop meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Don't you want to point out to Kiana that Yolanda is on Zoom?
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Uh,
The roll.
We got you. Kiana, is there any signups for public comment?
Dr. Christopher Petty?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say hello to each and every one of you on behalf of the Normandy School District and on behalf of our board president, Ronald L. Roberts, and our superintendent, Dr. Michael Triplett. We are here to say that the school district is interested in partnering with the city of Normandy and all of our efforts and all of what we have underway. We want to make sure that it is in good keeping with what you all do here for the city of Normandy. So I just wanted to be here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. I think we're in good shape with you on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Dudley?
Oh, I've said my piece. But I want to make sure the Normandy School District knows they're invited to jazz night, so we'll talk about you later.
All right.
All right.
Is that Bryce Gorman?
Actually, it's Gorman, but that's okay if nobody gets it right. Thanks for hearing me. I appreciate your time. I have a bit of a gripe. I own Normandy Animal Hospital on Florissant Road. I'm right across the street from the Normandy Community Garden. I've supported their efforts over the years. Each year for several years, I would buy a full yard of compost, as I would buy stuff for my beds, and I would put it over at the garden. Last couple of years, I haven't had need for that, so I haven't supplied anything. My complaint has to do with the wildlife sanctuary that's occurring across the street. I've been asked more than once about what's the deal with the abandoned property across the street. Now, we know the house is scheduled for tear down. It looks terrible. What my complaint is the roughly 18 to 20 foot brush that's growing up there. We're waiting for the state to cut. We're waiting for the state to cut. The state came last week and they cut about 16 feet roughly off the right of way, which is, I think, as far as they're legally obligated or allowed to go. There is roughly 20 feet of brush up on the hillside. It can be cleared because I went over and in less than 20 minutes, I cleared a 30-foot swath from where the state cut up to the edge of the garden. So I know it's doable. So if a 71-year-old man can do that much in 20 minutes, it seems that a whole bunch of gardeners could probably do a little bit better because it is kind of an eyesore. And I've had multiple comments from my clients, and I don't expect it necessarily to happen immediately, but it seems if they have time enough to do gardening, part of gardening would be maintaining your property. Where I'd allow 20-foot or 16-foot brush to grow up on my property, I suspect the city would be citing me immediately. So I'm not sure what the situation is there, but it would be nice if something would happen along those lines. And I don't feel it's my obligation to go over and cut all that brush on the hillside. I take care of my own property, and I did want to prove that it could be done. So in 20 minutes, I cut about a 30-foot swath, and you can look right across from my property and see where there's about 30 feet of it cut. So it can be done. So I kind of appreciate it if the powers that be over there would get a work day together when they're doing one of their cleanups or whatever and clean up that side hill. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. You're right across the street, Normandy Animal Hospital.
I am.
Correct, yeah.
Yes, I am.
Dog there a few times.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I also own the property next door, which I live in. So I own those two properties there, plus I own the parking lot that the animal hospital uses. So I have that frontage on Florissant Road from St. Anne's Lane up to the little blue house right next to the apartment complex. So, yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse
Thank you for hearing me.
Dr. Petty, I wanted to ask him a question, is it okay?
Well, he's gone.
He didn't leave, did he?
Yes, he did.
We're good?
Yeah.
I want to stop him, can I? I need to stop him.
I can't stop you from leaving, but we're going to continue with the meeting.
See if we can get a card from him.
Yeah, contact information, that's,
I got his contact information.
okay, okay, that's good.
Is there any other residents that want to address the council?
No.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
He isn't leaving, but I want to ask him a question.
Well,
please.
let's save it for after the meeting. Now,
Okay.
we're moving on. Thank you.
Well,
Citizens' comments are for citizens' comments.
what?
Let's move on.
I need to give you my card, Dr.
Mayor's report, very limited report. We all worked the polls today, and it looks like the outcome's going to be favorable without having election results. And that's all I have, but I'll start with Ward 1.
I wanted to say thanks to the police, they aren't here, for putting the decoy car up on Bermuda. The only thing I would ask is this, it worked at first. And yesterday going to Home Depot, there was someone that passed me right next to that car. So they already know that there's no one in there, so if there's any way that an officer can go in there an hour, a couple days a week to kind of show people that it does move and that it's capable of shooting a little radar, that would be helpful, because they're just flying again, like it's not even there. But I appreciate it there. I really do appreciate it there. I wanted to make a quick comment about our sidewalk project. Overall, it's going very well. There was a few bumps. It seems like the people with the asphalt overlays are having problems when they pull the old cement out, that they're cracked a little bit on both sides. But besides that issue, I think it's going very well.
Good to hear. Councilman Jackson?
Thanks, I just, it's good to meet you, Dr. Petty. I really was gonna hold off to this, but since you're here, I wanna see if we can get a group of people to come up to the high school and speak with the students and to see if they are interested in getting into aviation, possibly getting a job at Boeing. They have programs in Flow Valley that's free. And we're going to be really focusing on the seniors. I think this is a good time for us. When I was growing up, we had technical schools, we had different schools, trade schools, and a lot of that is gone. And a lot of times you can't get that training until after high school. So I would like to reach out to the students and possibly meet up with you guys and get a group from Boeing to come up and talk to some of the students and the teachers to see if we can get implement some things that they do at Boeing to help them in the future to possibly get a job there. So we'll be reaching out with you all, and it's really good to meet you today.
Yes, sir, I would be more than happy to facilitate that process and make sure that we have an in-person meeting. We firmly believe that workforce development is going to be what's key to answer the call of youth violence and some of the things we see happening with youth. We've got to get them involved in the workforce, so absolutely, we'll be more than happy to facilitate that.
Thank you very much. You know Miss Moulton?
Say that again.
Miss Moulton?
I've heard the name, but don't know her
Okay,
personally.
Miss Moulton, yeah, she knows. She knows. She talks about it. All right, thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Did you have? Oh, okay. Well, the only thing I have today is I had the honor to speak at Busch Stadium Tuesday for the 20th anniversary of the Redbird Rookies, and it was a special honor that they asked me to do something like that, and I was really proud of all the hard work. Okay.
Tony made the city look good.
Yeah. I probably know you.
Congratulations, Coach. Thank you.
Point three?
Yes. This Saturday, August 12th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the Annie Malone Family Center, there will be a family event. There's going to be health screenings, school supplies, suits, haircuts and braids, and then utility assistance. And that is located at 5355 Page Boulevard, not too far away from the Bayer YMCA. To piggyback on, yeah, it's on Page, and this is through the Annie Malone Foundation.
Grew up right down the street.
Hey, fantastic.
YMCA.
To piggyback off the utility assistance, last night at the 24-1 municipal meeting, they had multiple department heads, multiple managers, I should say, for various departments having to do with Ameren's forest and vegetation control, as well as their government assistance program and their community assistance program. these are the same people that have contacted me before. If any of our residents, especially our high needs, medical needs, elderly and low-income assistance, residents need assistance with paying their utility bills, please reach out. They are more than happy and willing to help all organizations, including our school district, with upgrades and repairs with available rebates. And then the last item, which tied into Councilman Jackson's item, was in addition to Boeing, we also have a workforce program through the National Geospatial Agency downtown. So many items to look at, and I believe that should be everything I have.
Thank you, sir.
Good deal.
Councilman Nelson.
Yes, Dr. Petty.
Yes, sir.
My name is Rick Nelson. I'm, I guess, still currently the district chess coach of the Normandy Collaborative. And we were active up until the pandemic. Because we had tournaments, actually, chess in every school in the district. And then they became elementary schools, of course. But we have a chess tournament November 11th and also December 2nd at Lucas Crossing, you know, with the Gateway Chess League. I'm also one of the officials of that, and Sam Cassish, who is the president, he's actually working with, I think, Demetrius Upchurch, assistant principal of the Lucas Crossing. So I just want to inform you that we're still involved with the chess programs. They're, I guess right now, they're idle, but we have some maybe high school kids, there were elementary kids at the time, that can still play. So I would love to get back and get the information to those kids so they can play in this tournament that's coming up with the Gateway Chess League. So I'll make sure you get my card.
Yeah.
And I'm formerly with Dr. Pierce, who brought me in several years ago. So I'm just grateful that you're here today and speaking about working with the city of Normandy.
Absolutely. I was so excited to see that building use permit come through. As the deputy superintendent, I approve all building use permits. And so I did see the building use permit come through for the tournament.
Yes.
So we're really excited about that. What I'd like to do is not only continue and further the work that your guys are doing with the assistant principal, Demetrius Upchurch, but I'd like to introduce you to the entire leadership team at the new middle school at Lucas Crossing. It is now a traditional middle school, because what we needed is a true feeder school to our high school in order for our secondary level of education to be successful.
Right.
So I'd like to introduce you to the leadership team, and in particular, when we have the school's open house night, I'd love for representatives from the chess club to be there to interface and meet with parents and get parents engaged in what you guys are offering. And then I think we're gonna have a better chance of pulling more and more students in.
Right.
Again, when we combine the efforts of workforce development, we combine the efforts of engaging children in activities that occupy their cognitive thoughts, such as the game of chess, then here's where we win the battle against crime, here's where we win the battle against violence. So as a representative of the district, I'm the conduit to help make all those things happen.
Thank you very much.
I'll make sure I
Appreciate
get my
it.
card.
Yes, sir.
You got to talk.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Debbie?
Yes, this last Saturday, I went to the Beyond the Backpack and volunteered and learned a lot. There's hundreds of people there that as Normandy Council people we could be interacting with. And I think towards next year, I'll bring it up again and see if people want to come and volunteer. And not even that, just mingle in the crowds, you know, let them know that we're Normandy and we appreciate their residency and it's broader to 24-1, but we are a part of 24-1 too. There were 25 resources there for people, and it was just a wonderful experience, and glad to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I thank you for being there, and I thank you for volunteering. The support of the volunteers is what makes an event like that happen. I want to say that it is also another key piece to the direction we're trying to take the Normandy School District in. We have a lot of wraparound services But a lot of the students and their families are not aware of these services. They gotta be aware of the workforce development opportunities. They've gotta be aware of engaging activities like chess club. And then when families have difficulties, they're in crises, they have to be aware of the wraparound services that are available. So what part of Beyond the Backpack was about was not just making sure that they had school supplies and shoes, was just making sure that parents know all of the community partners and strategic stakeholders that are wrapping their arms around the students of the Normandy School District. So that was one of our signature events, and thank you so much for being there and volunteering.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Doug.
Councilwoman Campbell? Oh, you're muted.
Muted.
I don't have.
Thank you. All right. City Administrator.
Hello. Most of my report has to do with things that we're going to be discussing tonight, so I'll just kind of address them as we come up. I do want to give a brief update on the audit. It should be presented to council at the next month's meeting. Now, originally it was supposed to be in June, and we're in August here, but there was some delays. Obviously, we were lucky to get on the auditor's schedule at all, but we should get it done or have it presented to council in September. So that's next month. And then we'll turn around and start the next year's audit because that's how close it'll be.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all.
And I do want to respond to, regarding the audit, when you haven't had an audit in 12 years, there's a lot of material to pull together to make things work right. And down the road, obviously, we're going to do this every year, and it won't be such a burdensome task. Colonel Sanders.
Good evening. My report for July 1st through August 1st is as follows. There were 1,731 calls for service, 125 police reports, 32 accident reports, 303 summonses, which if you notice, enforcement is up. That's the most enforcement we've had in a few years and growing. And then there were 344 business checks. To that end, concerning enforcement, there were a few things I wanted to touch on. I know that you guys, as the elected officials, receive complaints from your constituents regarding hot button items, and I sent out a list of enforcement action items that I want the police department to hone in on and focus on, and these things are zero tolerance violations. So zero tolerance means that if you catch somebody breaking the law, we're just going to go ahead and enforce the law through the practice of issuing summonses. Those violations were speeding violations over 15 miles an hour on Bermuda Road, Natural Bridge, and Forest Road, animals running at large or off leash, animal waste violations, littering and illegal dumping, derelict vehicles parked on any city street or public right of way, parking violations, meaning people in the fire lanes, handicap, on grass, unimproved surfaces, sidewalks, easements, etc. Those are some of the biggest complaints that we get on a day-to-day basis. They're repetitive, and I'm happy to report that enforcement is up. We're seeing a market improvement just so far in the month of August. We're probably going to eclipse this amount unless everyone all of a sudden just comes into compliance. So that is ideally the goal. That would be a good thing, but until they do, we are out there and we're moving in force. Some of the things that I wanted to touch on tonight were the department hiring status. I know that every meeting we ask where we are as a department. I'm pleased to report that we are 4 officers down from being back to full staff. We have some people kind of in the pipe now. So tentatively looking for the start of the budget year to start off the police department's budget year for the first time in probably about 5 years at full operating staff. So I'm really excited to have all the people that we need. Dr. Petty, wonderful stakeholder for the city to partner with for a lot of things. He's been very instrumental in the addition of the school resource program coming back to the school district. We're currently in talks right now, just kind of throwing this out there. We're engaging the school district reference whether we're going to increase the population of school resource officers on the campus, considering now that Lucas Crossing is going to be a full-scale, it's not the elemental model, it's a full-scale middle school. So hopefully we'll be bringing on some supplemental officers in addition to being at full staff here just after the school year. The next thing I wanted to talk about, I'm not sure if you guys received it in your packet, was the CERT training, the flyers for CERT training. We've had a lot of storms in the area, and our police department has responded to those storms. whether it be broken windows, down power lines, we get a lot of that. People without power, and people with trees that have fallen into their homes or their vehicles, and a lot of the questions that people have is what can the police do about it? Unfortunately, when these things happen on private property, if no one's injured and there's no major health or, safety hazard, we're very limited in what we can do. One of the things that we saw was the power was out in several areas of our region for, in excess of a week in some places. We have elderly residents that take medication that requires refrigeration, people that did not have any emergency plan when emergencies happen. We're expecting more inclement weather tomorrow. They're talking about severe storms tomorrow. It's been a really weird summer. It's a mild summer, but it's been weird. And we've had a lot of storms. One of the things that I'd like to impress upon the council, you guys know the stakeholders, when they come to you to complain about something, refer it to me if it's a police problem and give them a CERT flyer. The CERT training is actually something that was put together by the St. Louis County Office of Emergency Management in partnership with the university. The classes are $9, and there's a schedule that's attached in there where they're hosting several classes throughout the entire year. And it teaches residents what to do in the event of an emergency, whether it's, the essential things that you'll need: clean water, blankets, batteries, flashlights, portable radios, for when the power goes out. All of our electronic devices stop working. We're a very electronic dependent society. So backup chargers. We found a lot of people sitting in their cars charging their phones, but they're in their garage. That's a safety hazard. There's a carbon monoxide element that occurs when that happens. But these are just things that lay people just don't know. And so when people are pushed to the limits, they'll resort to their natural instincts of survival. But we want to get people prepared, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to do that by using the CERT program. Again, it's $9, so it's very cost efficient. The residents can participate in as many CERT classes as they need, and it's offered at several different campuses throughout the St. Louis Community College. The last thing I wanted to touch on was there was some NIMS training, and I know some of the older council persons, and I don't mean old in age, I mean old in tenure, like Councilman Nelson, Councilman Evans.
Sure about that?
You guys have, and maybe even Councilman Saxenheimer, because he's been around the block, even Mayor Beckman. You guys might.
He's older than all of us.
He's been here since before I started.
Steve was here before I started.
The FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, offers free classes, and the NIC strongly recommends that elected and appointed officials complete the IS 700 NIMS class. It's free, it's online. For any of you all that are interested, it's really important when we have these natural disasters, if we were to have to declare any part of Normandy as a disaster zone, and emergency preparedness, just bringing yourselves up to speed with what the requirements are going to be regarding federal emergency management, state emergency management, and they even give you a handy dandy certificate when you complete it that's good for life. So anybody that's interested, I have the information for that. I can forward that out as an email. I can give it to Sam and Kiana. They can give it to you guys. You can go online. It's just a couple of hours of your time to become certified, and then you can say that you're, incident command ready. And I think it's essential for, the pillars of the community to be prepared, because your constituents ultimately will look to you. One of the things that we need to just consider, and Sam said he doesn't want this to turn into a big discussion item, so we won't make it one. But he told me when I asked him, could I drop this on you guys? I'm really interested in finding out how the council feels about moving our building forward. And for the time being, we're here, we're in this building. You make the best of what you have. And so I know that Beverly Hills has done some conversions with regards to their city hall regarding solar panels. They're actually the only all-solar building in the 24-1. And so when the power went out, their bathrooms worked, their lights were on. When the power went out here, we have an electronic keyless entry system. We were locked out of the building. It's very difficult to book and process prisoners with no lights. Some of the considerations that I would just like for us to be thinking about are when the power goes out and these red lights, the electric signals stop flashing, we don't have nearly enough police officers to put them at every intersection and direct traffic, but we also don't have any stop signs or any of the basic essential things that we would need to deploy in situations where the regular services are discontinued for brief periods of time. So
I will tell you, just send me, we have to have a capital improvement discussion. We've got so much deferred maintenance and purchasing. just send me your wish list and it'll become part of that conversation.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, that's great to hear. That's all that I have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
A dedicated traffic car, is it in service now?
Oh, our dedicated traffic units will begin moving at the end of August and early September. We have 2 units that are going to be strategically placed throughout the entire community, and their sole purpose, Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week as traffic enforcement. And they'll be doing traffic enforcement on all of the major interstates and all of the city streets. I told them everything.
And that starts late August, early September?
Officer Max going on paternity leave or start sooner.
Okay, good.
May I ask, Colonel Sanders, could you send us a list of the zero tolerance topics
I'll forward the email to Sam and he can forward it to all of you guys that I sent to the police department.
to wrap?
Question, for the business checks, are those the ones that are upon their request, or are those the regularly scheduled business checks?
We check every business in every city that we provide police service for,
Okay.
every single night. So the nights when on the months when you'll see the engagement is higher, like 1,700, it's because the officers were logging the business one at a time. And then you'll see that for 2 months, and then it will transition and it will drop. It's because the other shift logs them by 100 block. So they'll put in 7,200 block of Natural Bridge and check everything the 7,200 block. But every business in the city of Normandy, Bell Ridge, and every place we provide service for gets checked every month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Business owner, I appreciate the fact that I see police cruisers go down the alley behind my property.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yarbrough, what's Public Works up to?
Public Works is up to a lot of grass and a lot of limbs. That's what most of our time is being spent on. We did start trying to track our work a little closer to see exactly what we're doing, and as we move forward to the program we're hoping to get for our work orders, we'll be able to get a lot closer. Right now, I'm just doing them by hand. So, but that's what most of our time is being spent on right now. August, we are gonna try to do some patching. We'll look at St. Anne and see if we can do something there. I know exactly what you're talking about. I drive down that several times a day. So, but that's where we are in Public Works, and trying to take care of the parks, take care of Bermuda, take care of Natural Bridge. I'm hoping people are seeing the work that's being done.
I do have a question for you. What's the status of the limb chipper? Are we
The
still?
limb chipper was returned today.
Outstanding.
I picked it up this afternoon.
Outstanding. Good, thank you.
Dennis, I had a question for you. You had listed that you're currently at half mower capacity. Half mower
Yes.
capacity? Would the addition of a new mower or a refurbished mower boost your productivity by a little or a lot, or?
It would definitely help, as long as we got somebody to run the mower.
Okay.
That's right now, I've got 2 guys plus myself, they can run a mower. But yes, another dependable mower would be nice.
Okay.
So we actually, that's one of our requests for the capital money, is a new mower.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
this.
All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Yarborough, Nelson,
Yes.
have you had any information on equipment and audit of any equipment that you have down there? Because, you just got here, and we don't know what we have, or have you got a count on what we have down there, or something from the previous administration?
Yeah, we actually did recently, Sam had us do an audit of equipment and stuff down there, so we did update what we have. There's several pieces of equipment that I'm probably gonna request to sell off. They're just sitting and haven't been used for years. So,
But you need a lawnmower. You need a lawnmower, though.
need lawnmowers, yes.
Okay, how many do we have?
We have one dependable zero turn, 2 undependable zero turns, and a walk behind.
Sam, how many did we have when we had our previous Public Works Director?
It's the same equipment.
Same equipment?
And jumping ahead to the budget, there is a request in the parks budget to purchase additional lawnmowers.
Okay, just keep it up to speed.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I don't see Mr. Ellis here, and we've got he gave us a narrative and a June 30 financial report. Sam advised me that June is a 5 payroll week, and it still looks like we had a net income of $200,000 for the month. That doesn't make sense. I like it.
Sorry, that income is year to date.
Oh, that's a year to date, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, June is $714.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. In the red. I got you. Does anybody have any questions on this report? It looks like we're on track to be okay to the end of the year. We've got a general fund balance of $658,000, which is better than it's been in some time. Considering 2 years ago, we had $175,000 of unpaid bills. I'm very, very pleased with that.
Is that part of the ARPA fund money?
That's all funds, yeah. But not the money we spent. This is our balance. This is our general fund balance.
Mark, explain the percentage of budget remaining.
I'd be happy to.
Please do.
So percentage budget remaining, this is what Charles would normally do. So this is 3 quarters into the year with 1 quarter left. So ideally, you would be at 25% for each department and revenue. We are right about at 25% for revenue, meaning, we're 75% through the year, and we've made 75% of what we thought. Also, I want to point out that this financial report is the first one post the budget amendment, so these budgeted amounts have changed according to the budget amendment, and one of the things we did was increase revenues significantly. You'll see on the expenditure side, if you're under 25%, that means you are over budget, but like Mayor Beckman alluded to, this is for June. June was a 3 payroll month. We have no more 3 payroll months this fiscal year. And basically all that means is it's an extra expense that washes out over the year, but it will make it look like we spent a lot more this month. And then a lot of the one-time expenses that we have for the fiscal year, like all of our insurance bills, were on the other side of all of those things. So while it says 21% remaining as far as total expenditures, I completely expect that we should be pretty well on track and shouldn't be way over budget or anything like that.
Any more questions? Is there a motion to approve the financial report for June 30, 2023?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda. Old business discussion of the city pay plan. We had a workshop 2 weeks ago, talked at length, made a lot of changes.
Mayor Beckman, can you swap the camera
Wait, are
around?
we the budget first or pay plan?
Did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's being passed out right now, there's no significant changes to the pay plan. It's just the changes that Councilwoman Campbell recommended at the last workshop were incorporated. And I think she said that she had some additional items that she wanted to bring up.
I'm missing one for your
She has a full copy.
Hello?
Councilwoman Campbell, is this something you want to address now or take it to the workshop? Are you prepared to discuss this now?
Because this meeting was supposed to be at 7:30 and then it got changed back to 6:30. I thought that I was going to be there. Fortunately, I'm driving and
Okay.
the actual topic that I wanted to discuss, I can't do right now. So I was wondering if we could save it for the next workshop or do it later in the meeting.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can take it to the workshop, and between now and then, just email your recommended changes.
Well, it's not just recommended changes. I mean, it's a group effort. So I wanted everybody to hear and get their opinion.
Yeah, and I just don't know how much time you're talking about, so I'll leave it up to you whether, if we can take it to a workshop and then beyond that workshop, we're gonna have a vote on the final budget. So is that something we can manage with, I don't know what it is we're addressing, so I kinda leaving it up to you.
Did you
Well,
say?
at the
If we
last
manage your
workshop,
workshop, in 2 weeks, we'll do that.
I'm trying to get, the last workshop, it was cut short, so I'm trying to get all of the information in that I read. I mean, if other people have things to say, please go ahead.
Okay.
Mayor Mark, she suggested to put it at the end of the meeting, she's not gonna wait.
Just keep on rolling.
Did you hear that? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing, actually.
She suggested
Yeah.
that, if that's an option.
Let's
Yolanda, did you?
let's
hear
have our
that?
discussion now, and if, when she's here, we can address that. I need to stay on agenda now. Is there any, everybody's had an opportunity, when this was emailed, and this is largely what we looked at and worked on 2 weeks ago. Is there any recommended changes, concerns, suggestions?
And you said,
Are we ready to move forward with this paper?
and you said things was changed in here.
Yeah, Yolanda had some changes that she recommended, and we made those changes at the last workshop.
So I didn't know, I didn't get through all of my changes because we had to.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Yeah, so this copy does include, yeah, it includes some of your changes.
Right, yeah.
Well, I mean,
So, and I had also had questions about the actual pay plan scale. But like I said, we didn't get to do it, we didn't get to finish it at the last meeting because we didn't have a quorum at a certain time. And then this meeting was supposed to be at 7:30, but then it got moved up to 6:30. So I'm just asking for a professional courtesy, just to like either do it later or if
Yeah, we
people
can do
have something
that.
to say now.
I'm gonna move that item, and we'll come back to it.
So the meeting is supposed to be 7:30?
No, we're just waiting for her to get here. New business.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
well, I mean, oh, you want to bring it up later during this meeting?
Yes.
I think it would, there should be a motion to postpone it until later.
Exactly.
Make a
Thank
motion
you.
to table it.
Thank you.
Don't table, postpone.
No, postpone rather than table.
Postpone.
And is there a motion to postpone item
That's what you meant.
E?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Aye.
All right. Under new business. Hang with me for just a second.
2318 ordinance.
Here it is.
2318?
yeah, this is first reading, right?
Right.
Bear with me, I need to find this. All right, I've got it.
The budget, we're on the budget.
New business, Council Bill 23-18. An ordinance of the city of Normandy, Missouri adopting the fiscal year 2024 budget. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of Council Bill 23-18?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second it.
Is there any comments, concerns, recommended changes?
Can I?
Please go.
Okay, so first, there was an issue, so I think in the council packet, this is appears as bill number 2324, but it is bill number 2318. There was just an issue with a mishap with printing, and sorry about that. So, it's the budget ordinance, and then the exhibit here, which is the budget table.
And we've gone through it once, correct?
Yeah, so we went through the general fund budget at the last workshop. There were some minor changes to the general fund budget. There was a couple, some departments got back to me with some line items, and we were able to save in some areas. However, the main difference between this draft and the last draft that was presented at the workshop is this draft includes all the minor fund budgets, meaning
Say
the
that
half-cent.
again, say that again.
It includes all the minor fund budgets, meaning the half-cent capital improvement tax, the half-cent parks and stormwater, and the half-cent economic development. So, Again, in capital improvement, we have, we're expecting $87,000 in revenue from the half-cent sales tax, with 38,000 of that going towards some renovation of the parking lot project. We're still refining our numbers on that, and deciding which options we should go. I don't know if you noticed in the City Hall parking lot, but there's some serious maintenance issues going on, and we're looking at some alternatives. To redo the whole thing would likely be closer to $60,000. But Dennis is working on some alternatives to maybe get us through, or maybe we need to talk about finding that money or dipping into reserves. As far as, and then the police have $57,000 budgeted for their annual fleet rotation. So that would be the purchase of 2 new patrol vehicles and just making sure the fleet is kept up to date. And part of that is also the sale of capital assets that we're planning to sell in the next fiscal year, which will help offset some of that fleet rotation. The old cars go out, we get some money for it, and they help fund the new cars. And the Parks and Stormwater budget, which is a half-cent tax on all sales within the city of Normandy, it's not a pool tax, also budgeted for $87,000. In here we have $10,000 of general park expenses, $19,000 in capital construction. This is something we'll talk about later with the park grant application, but that would be our matching funds as we receive the grant. And then $20,000 in park capital equipment. That would be the mowers that we're talking about earlier in the meeting. Versus out of the park budget, because mowers spend most of their time in the parks and they are parks equipment. In addition to that, there would be transfer out to general fund to pay for some park salaries and some other expenses. And there's actually a budgeted deficit in the park fund as proposed, which we do have some reserve funds in the park fund that we can draw down on. And I think it's a good expense, or we have a good justification with the park grant application and the matching funds. We're not drawing down on operational stuff, it's capital expenditures, and we'll get into the park grant application in a moment. And then there's the Economic Development Fund, also $87,000 budgeted revenues. A lot of that goes to maintain the fountain and the streetlights on Natural Bridge. There's also some accounting and administrative salaries that come out of economic development sales tax as allowed by state statute. And there's currently a $13,000, almost $14,000 surplus budgeted for that half-cent fund. And though this fund is sort of trickier to use than some other funds, where it's quite easy to spend parks money and really easy to spend capital improvement money. Spending on economic development, you have to come up with some economic development projects and spend it on that. And so we do have a pretty good balance in that fund, and so we, compared to some of the other funds, and something to think about, are there any economic development projects that we want to work on?
To use the $14,000 for, is that what you're?
Well, there's $14,000 surplus, and there's also $45,000 that's just sitting in the fund as well. And then next there's the Street Improvement Fund. This fund isn't directly funded by any specific restricted revenue source. It's just sort of a fund that Normandy has created to set aside money. But the main two things that are funding it are CDBG funds, which we just had a public hearing on, the road and bridge tax, which has to be used on road and bridges, and then the motor vehicle sales tax, which we were transferring $61,000 out of general fund to the street improvement fund. With the $250,000 fund balance that we have in there right now, and all of these, and the 223,000 in revenue projected for the year, we should be able to do just under $500,000 in street improvement projects this upcoming year. Of course, the first step in the winter will be to get a street assessment in the fall and winter, get that street assessment done, put it out to bid in late winter, and then do projects in the summer next year. So, and then finally, there's the two smallest funds, which is the sewer lateral fund, which depending on how the Glen Echo vote goes tonight, we'll have to talk about sewer lateral depending on if the fees go up or not. And there's also the judicial education fund, which for every court case that gets processed, $1 gets set aside for judicial education, and the court clerks go to an annual training each year. So nothing too exciting going on in that budget, but it is necessary. So, and that's all the minor funds. Of course, that was just created with conversation with department heads and talking about what we wanted. There's still plenty of time for input from the council and, you know, seeing what we can do. And of course, we'll have time to discuss in more depth at the workshop, or I'm happy to answer any questions now.
Did you get a final MOPERM number for 2024?
No, we submitted the renewal, and hopefully we can hear back from them soon.
Because you had thought that you were being quite liberal with that number, hoping that it came in lower, but we just don't know yet.
Yeah, we just don't know yet. And
Okay.
that and the work comp renewal number are going to be the two bigger question marks, and hopefully they come in not quite as high as I think that they might, and we'll have a little bit of extra funds to play with.
All right.
Okay, where is like the newsletter in the budget?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we'll get into at a workshop. We'll prepare some department worksheets. And go more line item by line item. I didn't want to clog up the regular session meeting, but it's something in the admin budget which Kiana and I have been talking about. I believe it's in 10541, or sorry, 10542, printing. And
what page?
This would be on page 3.
10.5.
Is that $500?
No, I think it's not just newsletter, but it's almost 13,000.
12,000.
That'll get newsletters done.
Yeah, that's not all for newsletters, but that is part of it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we had budgeted, rather than 4 newsletters, a fall and a spring newsletter, 2 newsletters a year, and it was just a budget decision. Is that how you budgeted that, Sam?
So Kiana actually and I had a discussion about this. So currently budgeted is $3,000 per newsletter. So 3,000 of that 12,850 would be for newsletters. And we did want to bring that up at a workshop with the council to discuss what we want the newsletter to look like going forward. I know the last run, there was some frustration with not enough copies printed and the fact that they weren't directly mailed. We may be able to do that if we do a biannual, or maybe reduce the pages. So it was something I was planning to bring up at the workshop, but you guys want to discuss it?
No, we can save that for the workshop.
Okay.
That could turn into a longer discussion. Now, at the next workshop, we are going to finalize this budget so that we can vote on it at the September meeting.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was the possibility of purchasing through or investigating how much an LED sign would cost for the city hall. I know like we have a law against, I was talking to Sam about it, our ordinances about LED signs, but also just researching how much it would cost, because communication with the public is something I think that we're lacking in. And not only can the public see it from here
but also the school district would be able to advertise some things, like also on the sign. If not just that one place, maybe two prominent places that we could research, like where it would, with the exception of like in the community, because I mean, you don't want people at night having a glaring light in their face, but there's no residential stuff here. So looking at how much that would cost, and then if we can get the ordinance to mention that.
Well, there's been some other interest in changing that ordinance prior to that, so, yeah, we can take a look at that. And Dennis, you want to volunteer to give us a ballpark on a sign like that?
The LED one, the corporate garble kind where you can.
So it's like the one, you know, like in Northwoods, they have two. They have one that you can see off of
Lucas.
70, and they have one you can see off of Lucas and Hunt, where the images change.
Yeah, we can get a ballpark and work the budget.
All right.
Sam, did you put anything in there? I may have missed it if it was put in there about possibly a few more speed humps. What section would that be in?
So it's not currently in there.
Okay.
It's not saying that we can't put it in there. Again, I spoke, we do have some pending CDBG funds for 2023, which still have not come in yet. And that's also something to be mindful about these 2024 funds that we just had a public hearing on. Don't expect them until this time next year.
Right.
So, I'm not 100% sure why that is, but it has to do something with the federal government, so.
That explains it.
But no, it's not currently in the budget, but if that's something you would like us to investigate, propose alternatives.
I think we need to investigate it just to get at least a dollar figure of how much they are a piece, so that if we could find a few dollars here or there, that we could possibly help the police in some troubled areas.
Okay.
Good idea.
So, would that be a street improvement, or could we, streets or capital improvement? That would be streets, yeah.
I mean, it would depend. I would think some larger cities would put that in an operational type thing, but depending on how much it is, we could categorize it as capital if we wanted to.
Okay.
So Sam, did you just say that, okay, so really no road work will be done until next year? Is that what we're saying?
As far as full-on resurfacing, yes. Now, patching potholes, that's something that I think Dennis said in his report he's hoping to get to later this month. So, yeah.
And to that point, we've still got $250,000 in the street fund. Even without, that included the CDBG funds. That included $132,000 in CDBG funds. So street improvement, we've got without CDBG that we're waiting on, we've got in the neighborhood of $120,000. Is that accurate?
Right now, the projected fund balance at the end of this fiscal year, so that's it, in about a month and a half, will be $250,000. So we've got $250,000.
So those funds are available to us to do street repairs?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
So why do we have to
Now,
wait?
Sam, do we lose any of those funds if we don't spend them?
CDBG?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so what's in the street improvement bank account, the fund balance, no. But CDBG funds, you do have to use in a timely manner.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
As far as, are we gonna get any resurfacing done this year? Even if we put something out to bid tomorrow, we're not gonna have a contractor that could start before.
Right, but there's no reason we can't have a project planned for the spring.
Yeah, and yes, sorry, I didn't mean to, as far as the CDBG funds, which would be one specific road project.
Right.
Whether it's Bermuda Court or another street, we would have to wait for those funds for that project.
Right.
But we could start another
We've got
project.
$250,000 to do something.
Yeah,
And
which we could start
there's so
early.
many
Yeah.
bad streets out there, we won't have trouble finding a way to use those dollars. All right, good, thank you.
So with speed humps,
I'm sorry?
So with speed humps.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We've already, if you think that's a priority over patching the streets.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
I mean, that's a
we-
decision we're gonna have to.
Well, we talked about
We got
speed humps over a
$250,000,
year ago.
and we got a lot of capital improvement priorities. We're just gonna have to say, okay, what do we wanna do with these dollars? Here's our needs, prioritize them. And I will tell you personally, some of the things that are staring us in the face, like this parking lot out here, I'm not opposed to going into reserves for things that have been left. If that goes like that any longer, we won't have a parking lot. So a few dollars spent now might save us a lot of dollars spent later. So that's another conversation. We've got to just get our wish lists of capital improvements, including street repairs.
Well, didn't, Mayor, excuse me.
Yeah.
Didn't Sam speak about the money coming in for speed bumps for 23?
That's true. But what Tony is just suggesting, that if that money doesn't come through till, well, that's expected any time now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it also has
2023.
been for 2 months.
Yeah, it's been,
2023,
yeah.
we're talking 2023.
Right, I would still recommend waiting for those dollars for the speed bumps.
Okay.
We've already decided that's what it's going to. And I can't imagine those dollars won't show up in the next 30, 60 days. I would think that's a reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, so are we done with the fountain? The fountain's no longer gonna be on for the rest of the year? Is it?
It's on right now.
It's on? Oh, thank you. Okay.
It goes down every once in a while.
I hope we're not putting too much money in that.
Is it
fund.
broken?
We're actually not, the only money that
As long
we
as we don't
spend
spend no money on it, we good.
The only
It's up
money
and
that's
down.
been
We got
spent has been
one
on
thing in the
filters.
fountain.
Dennis,
Is
what
it-
were you saying?
The only money that's been spent on the fountain has been filters at this time.
Okay.
Normal.
Thank you.
All right. We have, is there any more discussion on this budget for now? And we're gonna take the rest of it to the workshop?
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second to accept the first reading of Bill number 2318. Roll call vote, well, we can do first reading with a, do we need a roll call vote for first reading, Andy?
No, not for a first reading.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, Council Bill. And in your packet, it's Council Bill 2325. Actually, it's 23-19. An
This is
ordinance,
waste management?
this is regarding solid waste collection. Council Bill 23-19, an ordinance in the city of Normandy, Missouri, repealing and readopting Chapter 235, Article 1 of the Normandy City Code regarding solid waste collection. Is there a motion to accept the first reading of Council Bill 23-19?
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a second.
I have,
Yeah, now's the time for conversation.
So, it's supposed to be, Bill 23-19 at the top of our paperwork, it's 23-25.
Right, right.
Right.
It is actually 2319 if you want to change that.
Okay, thank you.
So my understanding is that with this bill, we wouldn't have any limb, like, picked up, right?
Yeah,
Waste management.
That is correct with this bill.
But we wouldn't have limbs picked up from our, no, waste management would be the only people picking up limbs. Public Works would no longer pick up limbs at all.
The way this is written, that is correct.
Okay, so why do we have a limb chipper then? Why are we getting a limb chipper fix if?
Well, because we haven't adopted this bill. This is the first reading.
Because if, in a year and a half, if Waste Management decides not to rebid and we don't get it in the next contractor to pick limbs up, that means we don't get them picked up if we get rid of the limb chipper.
We
So
also
I
have-
like-
We also have property that if something goes down, we're responsible to clean it up.
Yeah.
So the chipper would be used in that instance.
So I understand that Waste Management comes around and they pick up the limbs and you bag them and you tie them up and everything like that. But I think that having a small amount, have residents have a small amount of limbs in the front of their yard, which I've done before, we have a dump truck, we have a limb chipper that's being fixed. Like that's something, to me, that's a service that residents, especially with all of the storms that we have, if you run out of bags one day and you just kind of like leave them there, would be something that we wouldn't want to deprive them of. Is this like an excessive amount that guys are having problems like keeping up with it?
You want me to address it, Sam?
We don't have a manpower.
Yeah.
I think Dennis is, better.
Yeah, part of it is I almost feel, being the new public works director, I'm seeing almost abuse of such a service. I'm getting limbs out there that are this big that I'm winding up just to get them off the roadways. I'm taking a chainsaw to them myself. And right now, we stored them back in the back. But with the current setup of what we have, and when the storms come through, there has been a ton of limbs. I was really surprised by the amount of limbs, and it's like, where do these come from? Where's all this coming from? So, to answer your question, manpower is one thing, and the other thing is in my mind, it's almost an abuse of a city service.
And I can expand on that. I will tell you, I know there are people that bring their limbs to Normandy because we have that service. I know it happens.
Is there, I hear what you're saying. Is there a way, like you said, clearly it is not in the best interest of Normandy to have you doing that, because that's time consuming and everything it doesn't go with what you're supposed to be doing. But if you do get an excessive, like a limb that's excessive in size, is there a way to like tag it? Or is there a process to like tell the homeowner or the person that put it there, like, we are not going to take this. We will take these things. However, is there a process for that? We will do this, but we will not do that. Unfortunately, you need to figure out how to do that.
There's not a formal process that I know of, but I know Kiana has fielded some calls, and I've fielded calls, Sam's fielded calls of people that will put their limbs out, and because they don't get picked up, they get upset. And then when we go by there to pick them up, and we find out they're big, large limbs that needed to be cut up. So, if the thought is to go towards keeping this service, it needs to be changed somehow, that it's gonna have to, an absolute definition of what can be put out, when it can be put out, is gonna have to be drawn up.
And I will tell you, I got a lot, and then it'll be your turn. I got a lot of feedback from council on this, and I think where this is leading, people weren't excited about losing this service. But if we can regulate this service to be more manageable for the public works crew, like instead of, right now, somebody picks up the phone and say, I've got limbs in my front yard, and we're expected to go get them. So if we limit the service to a day a month, that this is when we do this day a month, and we won't take anything over 4 inches in diameter, and if there's a storm, we can put a notice on the website that we're gonna be out this day. Just regulate it so that we're not out there all the time picking up everything. Because there's a lot of times it's like, my goodness, why didn't you just put that in a trash bag? We don't need to send a crew out there with a limb chipper for your little bag of sticks, right? When you could put them in a bag and waste management will pick them up. Steve, go ahead.
In the past, basically, if the limb was too big in diameter, they wouldn't chip it. It would be the homeowner's responsibility to get rid of it. In the past, to me, that's a major thing when we're officially a tree city and we can't even pick our own limbs up. So to me, even though I think in some cases it may be abused, I'm not saying it's not. What I'm saying is, I could talk about Ward 1, and there is a boatload. Every single storm we get, there are limbs that are put out there. every single one. I don't care if it's a heavy rain, there's so many trees and they've been neglected and too much pressure on them and you're gonna get branches everywhere. And a perfect example is that big tree that fell out of a section of the park that went into the street. It's massive, but that would have never been eligible for the chipper anyway. I would recommend during the peak time, either do it once a month, maybe for that 1 month, do it twice a month, and then the rest of the time you do it once, just to show them that there is a service there. Put parameters on the website. If you want the chipper, they have to be this big. Rodney said it doesn't matter how long it is, as long as the diameter is small, because once you start it, it just eats it up. So the length didn't matter to Rodney. Now, I'm not saying that affects you, but if you want them a certain length, a certain diameter, all you got to do is put it on the website, tell them anything bigger than that is the homeowner's responsibility. So if your crew goes through and there's one this big, it's on the homeowner. If they have a problem, if it's in writing. What's probably more important than that is I read through that ordinance, unless I misread it, that also will have a problem with our leaf vac. Being a leaf city and having almost 400 houses in Ward 1, we have a boatload of leaves. So that is a critical service. We have an aging community in Ward 1. And they pay people a lot of times just to blow them literally to the curb. So they're not physically capable of putting them in bags, cutting them up into small bundles. They're in their 80s. So a lot of them cannot do this. That's why I think regulating it, like the mayor said, I think would be a perfect way. In that way, set up some parameters. I think they're already set up, unless I'm mistaken there. And we'll go by them, but I think getting rid of it, I could tell you right now, we'll get calls, countless calls in Ward 1.
Thank you, Steve. Kevin?
Okay, so what I got to say is that right now, the citizens are paying Waste Management to do the pickup. And that's what we need to stick to. We don't have the manpower. If we're not gonna give this man enough personnel to do the job, we're out of that business. That's just the way I feel. Now, we're not gonna get rid of the equipment. We're gonna have storms come through where we'll have the opportunity to come back and visit it at another time. But for us to just keep going back and forth, if we're paying Waste Management to do the job, let's make Waste Management do the job. We're out of the business of doing it on a monthly basis. That's not saying that we can't do it on a quarterly basis or every 6 months go around if we have a big storm or whatever. But as far as monthly, no. We have to look at it. This is not the normality of the past. We have to go forward and quit thinking about the way it used to be. Let's try to work to get normally the way it used to be. Right now, we're a long way from it. So Waste Management is our trash, NIM service.
Karen?
No, I was just saying, thank you, Kevin, because it's right here in the flyer that they sent us. And thank you, Sam, for that earlier. Yeah, I think if we're paying for the service, let Waste Management do it. Because it clearly says on here that they will pick up 4 feet long and 18 inches in diameter limbs. They should pick those up for us. We're paying for it. And if we don't have the manpower at Public Works, then we should let them do what they do and let us do what we have to do with Waste Management. Now, I don't know about the leaves. I bag mine because I don't like anything out of my yard like that, but it clearly says this in this flyer that they sent out that, you know, they take up to 12 bags, but we should let Waste Management do what they do because we're paying for that service and let, until Public Works get fully staffed or whatever we want to do after that, because they're not fully staffed, but let Waste Management do what they do.
Tony?
Yeah, I have to piggyback off what Karen and Kevin said. I put sticks, logs, and bags, as long as they're like 2 feet long, 3 feet long, as long as they can fit in the bag. Waste Management management will pick them up.
Pick it up, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I broke them up and
yeah.
put them nicely in a bag and put them out. They can pick them up that Monday, as long as they're in a brown paper bag.
Yeah.
Any other comment?
Yeah, I do.
Debbie?
I agree with that, with, we're paying for waste management. But there's some things here that aren't clear, that aren't connected with what waste management is doing for us, like the heavy pickup. Well, aren't we supposed to call and let them know and ticket the item that needs to be picked up?
No.
No.
You get one. Now, you don't have to per the contract, but as a matter of practice, it's a better way to make sure that they come.
And it's recorded then, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So the people could put things out and they'll pick them up.
You get one free item per week is on trash.
No.
day.
Right, but I was of the understanding that we had to call and it needed to be ticketed.
They were actually telling people that at their customer service line, but that's not the contract that we have.
Yeah,
So-
but they do, I know for myself, it took them 2 weeks to pick up something, and I did call, and they said, you should really call and tell us that it's on the curb. Now, am I going to argue with the customer service person on the line? No, because I want it picked up. So, if they tell me that I have to call, then I'm going to call. Yes, they're supposed to, but do they do it every time? No, because they're not on the truck with the guy.
It takes a separate truck, not necessarily the residential truck has the ability to pick that, they can pick the can up, but depending on what your load is, they might have to bring another truck out.
They do have it. I just call.
So from the response I'm getting here, it sounds like,
Yeah,
I want to
Go ahead,
I want to
Sam.
bring one more thing up. I mean, there's the issue of, Public Works doesn't have the manpower to do it, and it's just kind of disorganized. And we can fix that by, saying it's only on this day or that day. And that's one issue, and it can be fixed through some additional regulations. But there's also the other issue of the capital expense of the limb chipper. Right now, it's fine. We did just spend $2,500 fixing the safety mechanism on it, which is why it was out. The limb chipper, when new, is $40,000. And it is a cost to insure it every year, and we can make it last a lot longer if we don't run the hours up. Picking up everyone else's limbs, we just take what falls in Wholesale Park and around City Hall and other city-owned properties. The limb chipper can last that long, and once it does finally go down, we won't have to look at replacing it. So there is some short-term stuff, which I agree with some of the other council members, it can absolutely be fixed through just some additional rules with the program. Some of the rules would look very similar to Waste Management's rules, but there's also a separate problem of the long-term costs, just looking further down the road.
well, from the response that I
I'm
just.
still
Oh, go ahead,
interested,
go ahead.
and I keep being not addressed here. So I would suggest with the ordinance is then do put the information about ticketing, calling and ticketing, so it's complete. With that, and then on page 6 of 11, as of now, Waste Management will take 6 personal bins of yard waste, and then 12 bags. And at the top, it's not the same information. You're saying 6 30-gallon brown bags. No, they take 12 and they take 6 personal bins of yard waste. So if we're gonna coincide with them, the information needs to be accurate in the ordinance. And then why not put the measurement guidelines that is in the waste management pamphlet? So in the ordinance, to be clear of what waste management is gonna pick up.
I'll just address some of those. So this ordinance is our ordinance, and it basically sets the rules out about the minimum service that any exclusive service provider would provide. There will be future contracts with Waste Management or a different service provider, depending on what we do when we put out the service to bid again at the end of 2024. So these are more the minimum requirements. We can mirror them to what's in the Waste Management contract right now, if that's what you think. But as far as, I don't see this ordinance as like a public information thing. It's it's just kind of buried in the code, and it's the minimum requirements that we'll set out for our contracts in the future.
Well, but it's referring to what's happening now, and it's coinciding with the services. And so I understand what you're saying, but I'd feel more comfortable with the accuracy of the information. Because it's confusing if waste management is saying this and then the ordinance is saying this, and so what do you follow? I mean, and if they've got those services, put it in the ordinance.
From a legal perspective, I don't think it's advisable to put that kind of information in the ordinance. For what the reason Sam is saying, it's binding future contracts. It would require potentially changes to the ordinance in the future. That kind of information, the information, specific information relating to waste management is better suited for maybe the city website, right? Some sort of informational page on the website. But getting that granular in the ordinance, I think, would have some unintended consequences and sort of limiting the city's actions.
For what though? I mean, limiting the city's action. So if we hire another waste management company, we just update the ordinance. So I don't see that as an issue.
I mean, and certainly if the council wants to just include the terms of the waste management contract in the ordinance, and then if in the future there's a contract with, a competitor and amend the ordinance, I mean, that's certainly a possibility, right?
So,
It's cumbersome.
this is different in that the six bags of yard waste versus the 12. What other differences do you see?
Well, that 6 personal.
Hey, I can't.
What? Somebody's talking, okay, we'll wait.
Yeah, go ahead, finish what you're doing. 'cause
I know,
it's gonna be all
but she's
night.
saying her side talking and we can wait.
They're just trying to So, let's, Debbie,
So it-
what other changes are you?
Well, on top of page 6 of 11.
Right.
So people can put out 6 of their own personal yard waste bins. They could put out up to 12 bags.
12 bags.
And then under tree limbs, put the measurements. It's 4 feet. It's, the whole bundle is 18 inches. And I think, I forget the diameter, but it's not more, 4 inches of the diameter. Put it in there.
Well, I would tend to agree that it's pretty simple language. Tree limb pickup service shall be provided by the exclusive solid waste provider of the city. And they can determine, it depends on who we choose for that service. One company may have this limitation, one company may have that limitation. Whatever their,
I see what you're
Yeah,
saying. So
whatever
it's
they're-
saying
yeah.
exclusive solid waste provider, okay.
Yeah.
I can deal with that. But as far as the yard waste,
you want to up the
yeah, and the
bags.
ticket
Yeah.
pickup,
Well, if we're not, let me ask, does this affect leaf pickup too?
No, there's nothing in this ordinance about leaf pickup, and
Okay.
as far as I'm aware, there's no ordinance.
I will tell you, in my neighborhood, if you limit it to 6 bags of leaves, you're gonna have to put them out for 4 or 5 months.
it's 12 bags,
Yeah.
12 bags.
Yeah, that's why I say, so if we limit it to 6.
Right, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think one thing we may consider is for 235-070, schedule and services for residential waste, just mirror language in tree limbs. It shall be provided by the exclusive service provider, and they'll set the schedule.
Right, I think that's reasonable.
Right,
That's great.
I agree with that.
That's referring people.
All right, so, except for the 12 bags versus 6 bags, it sounds like the majority of the council is good with this as written?
Yes. Up to 12 bags / bundles of 6 personal cans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, there's a motion and there's a second to accept the first reading.
Put the bundles in there, 4 feet long, 18 inches.
Right, we'll.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second to accept the first reading of 23-19. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Okay. Council Bill 23-20, in your packet, you may see it say 23-26. Please correct that, it's 23-20. An ordinance of the City of Normandy, Missouri, amending the City of Normandy Personal Policy Manual regarding the payment of holiday pay. Is there a motion to accept the first reading of Council Bill 23-20?
Motion.
Is there a second? Can we have some history on this, Sam?
Yeah, so I believe this section of the personnel manual was last updated in 2009. And for those council members who are not aware, how we deal with holiday pay for police officers is different than other employees. Obviously, police officers have to work Christmas, have to work New Year's, and all the different holidays. So how we compensate them for that is for every holiday that they were employed, they get compensated 8 hours per holiday in November of each year. It's kind of right before Christmas, so it works out for the officers financially, and we just basically compensate them all at once. What we have found that's an issue with the way that the section of the personnel manual is written, is the way it distinguishes it between police officers is exempt and non-exempt, which is that's FSLA terms, meaning exempt from overtime and non-exempt for overtime are kind of more common terms, salary and hourly. So the way it's written, basically hourly employees get paid in November because most hourly police officers have to work. Salaried employees get paid as the holidays come up. Where we've run into issues is detectives don't get scheduled to work on holidays. Occasionally they may get called in if there's a major crime on a holiday, but detectives, are scheduled off. So are some admin staff that are hourly in the police department. Like there's one administrative sergeant. So they get scheduled off, and so the way it's written is technically they should have to wait till November too. But that just isn't very practical, so we found that a better distinction would be between police officers in the patrol division and police officers not in the patrol division. And so, very simply, that's what we do. There's also a minor update clarifying some of the rules around a floating holiday that police officers get, as far as how it accrues. So,
Thank you. So basically, this is just drawing a distinction between the patrol officers that work on holidays and and other more administrative roles in the police department. Any questions, concerns? We have a motion and a second to accept the first reading of Bill 23-20. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Council Bill 23-21, and in your packet, 23-27. Please correct that to 23-21. An ordinance of the City of Normandy, Missouri, amending Section 500.110 regarding the City Council attendance policy. This one we talked about at length. It speaks for itself as to the decision we made at the workshop, how to manage this. Is there a motion to accept the first reading of Bill number 23-21?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any concerns, corrections? All in favor? Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry.
Opposed.
Ayes have it, motion
What did you
carries.
say?
No.
Okay, did you get that, Kiana? We've got 2 no votes. Okay, thank you. All right. Resolution 23-24. A resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri, directing the city administrator to submit an application for the 2024 Community Development Block Grant Program.
23-22.
No, this is a resolution, 23-24.
the resolutions are numbered correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We was on the road for a
Yeah,
minute.
that's what I said. This is correct.
So again, this is the, when we get the disbursement of $132,000 in CDBG funds, we're to use it to repair streets, specifically Bermuda Road, Bermuda Court. But if we get a street assessment and there's a higher priority on that street assessment, we will have the opportunity to amend this if we so choose. So is there a motion to adopt the resolution to submit an application for the 2024 Community Development Block Grant Program?
I had a question.
Let's get the motion, and there's a motion.
I'll second.
And there's a second. And questions, comments?
So, the hearing that we just had.
Yes.
And I couldn't hear it on the phone, I apologize. Did anybody say they wanted the money used for anything other than streets?
No, we had one comment that the street that's on this resolution wasn't necessarily the highest priority. St. Anne's Lane was another priority because it's well-traveled and it's got a lot of deep potholes in it. So that was, to use it on street maintenance, everybody was in agreement on, but the priority of which street we do first, there was some disagreement.
One of the things that I talked about and I really like to see happen, but I know I'm on the dissent, is taking $30,000 and using it for home improvement for low-income housing.
That would only service 2 people because it has to be $15,000.
Well, it's $7,500 per household.
No, Sam said a different amount.
It's $7,500.
I think 75 is
per household.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that, like, if we could take it and help with the blight on 4 homes where someone's living in, 4 homes in our community, and to see how the process goes. One, we do have low to moderate income people that live in our community too. It would help to refresh, you know, not every street, of course, because $7,500 per household is, it doesn't, you can't stretch it out. But to have one home that goes from having a distressed look greatly benefits the entire neighborhood. And I would like to see us try the program to help our community members.
Any feedback?
I still say it should be done on streets. Our streets are bad. I mean, we can visit it another year from now, but as of right now, we need to take care of these streets. That's a safety issue.
Yes.
How would we select residents in a impartial, equitable manner?
County would.
Yes,
We gotta apply for it.
Yeah, normally would select.
And anybody can get
So
it.
Normandy would take the money and set it aside, and then my idea was to ask our code enforcement professional, what homes does he see that are continuously cited for blights, like such as like lower downspouts or you know, chip paint, or like need things like that. Give them an application and everything. You know, if they fill it out, they fill it out. If they don't, they don't. And then have the county, because the county is the one that disperses the funds, and it's done in an equitable way, because you have to turn in your tax returns, you have to like go through the entire process to do it in that manner. That was my idea. Of course, I mean, I would not want to see it go to someone who is a renter or someone who's a landlord.
So we can't stop that.
Yeah, they wouldn't be
We
able
wouldn't be able
to.
to stop that.
But wait, let me finish, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Please.
Yeah, the same with
So I wouldn't want to see it go to a household where there's a renter, but if we have a homeowner and we know because of Normandy School District how many people get free and reduced lunch in our area, and also from census data information and everything, and we talk about school drives and, you know, wraparound services and things like that, why it would seem to me that it's necessary to have this caveat also as a wraparound service. If we know already that kids need shoes and families need their electricity bills paid in our area and things like that, why not offer this also to them?
Well, Sam, didn't you say that we don't have that much control as to who applies for it?
Exactly.
I mean, ideal if we could get Rick involved and point it to a house and have them apply, but do we have that control to?
Yeah, I think my understanding is once we turn the program over to St. Louis County and we fund it, then it's under their guidelines.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that Rick couldn't let them know and get the word out about it, if we chose to go down that path. And then I think there was a question about homeowners. I think it's only eligible for people who are owner-occupied.
That is correct. So,
But you can't determine who gets it.
No, it would be St. Louis County.
Right, so it's like a flip of a coin.
Yeah.
So you think they need gutters or windows over here, and all of a sudden, they put it in a lottery and somebody over here gets it that needs something else, then
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think they're more or less first come, first served. And there is a lot of responsibility on the homeowner to get bids from contractors and get everything. So I assume it's whoever gets their stuff in order first and presents it would be the people who get it.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea. I've done it before. That was many, many years ago. And they gave only $5,000, and that did help a lot. I did get something done with that. So I think that's a great idea to help some citizens who could possibly need it.
well,
Thank you.
rather than talk it to death, if there's a motion made to amend this resolution, it can be made, and we'll get a consensus of the council.
I'd like to make a motion to take $30,000 from CDBG fund money to put towards, what's it called? Is it called a HUD, Home Improvement? HIP program.
Okay, there's a motion to dedicate 30,000, and there's a second. Can I have a roll call
Can
vote,
I ask a
please?
question?
Oh, yes, there's
Is it,
a,
does this fund have to be used in a certain, area, a
yes,
certain ward?
yes. Well, not ward, but
Or a
a
certain area?
socioeconomic, go ahead,
Let me
Sam.
clarify. So if it is a infrastructure project, it can only be used in certain census blocks that are low to moderate income. For things like the home improvement program, it's based off the household. So, and I don't think there's a map in the packet tonight, but you guys saw the map at the last workshop. I think most of Ward 3, south of Florissant and Normandy Place and south of Natural Bridge is not considered low to moderate income, while the rest of Normandy is.
Right.
So,
So this would be Ward 1 and 2.
Yeah,
exactly.
for non-low to moderate income areas, you can only be eligible through the home improvement program or some community program.
Right.
Uh,
All right, thank you.
So there's a motion, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I was going door to door in Glen Echo, and there was a young couple, and they were on the waiting list for Beyond Housing, and they got approved. And so there's already something similar to that, and maybe you have to do on the waiting list, but I think Beyond Housing has a more structured, supervisory kind of home improvement that I just think, and they're getting more federal monies for that. And I just think our streets are really needy, and we just really need to address more of the general need of the whole city.
It's gonna make these homeowners that possibly would need help with bad streets have car repairs because of bad streets in addition to their home. So I'm like Kevin, I mean, our streets are in very rough shape.
I tend to fall in that same family of opinion. There's a motion to amend, and there's a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
I'm sorry, Mayor, who was the second? Me.
Karen Cleveland.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cleveland?
Yes.
Councilman Saxonhammer?
No.
Councilman Jackson?
No.
Councilman Evans?
No.
Councilman Nelson?
No.
Councilman Hahn?
No.
Councilwoman Rosso?
No.
And Councilwoman Campbell?
Yes.
Nays have it, motion fails. There's a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 23-24. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Aye. All right, resolution, I'm missing a resolution. 2325, I've got it. Resolution 23-25, a resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri, approving and supporting the Park Advisory Board's application to the Municipal Park Grant Commission. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 23-25?
Do we have it? It doesn't have a number.
But it doesn't.
Yeah, 23-25 is the resolution of the City of Normandy approving
Motion.
and supporting the Park Advisory Board recommendation. We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or concerns?
I do want to
You want- go ahead.
bring attention, so if you see this, it should be the next thing in the packet. This is a site plan of the scope that the Parks Board and engineering group, Weiss Design Group, helped us put together. So again, to go over some things, the current scope is to resurface the tennis court with asphalt that would be filling in the cracks that are there, putting an asphalt overlay on it. This would give it another 4 or 5 years of really, really good use, and then some cracks would eventually start to pop up, which at that point we can keep up with maintenance and extend the life even further. There was another option for a completely new tennis court that was post-tension. It was not fiscally viable. It was about 4 times as much as just the asphalt overlay. But it's what the professionals play on, but I'm sure Councilman Nelson would know. But,
And only if I would be the only head pro,
yeah, right.
local head pro.
The other parts of the scope is resealing and restriking the parking lot that currently exists. A lot of the parking lot is faded and maintenance is coming up due on it. It would also do some things to the bathroom, some limited work to bring it up to be more ADA compliant. And then there's this final part of the scope, which would add additional parking spaces. So on this map, you'll see it would be on the south side of the map. There's additional parking spaces, I think it's 12, and then there's a sidewalk that connects that parking lot to the existing parking lot. Attached to this, now the Parks Advisory Board has recommended that be included in the scope. There was an additional cost difference of about $110,000 for that portion of the project. Either way, we are right at the grant cap with our 5% match that we can afford this, and with the 5% match, so we're basically spending 5 cents for every dollar spent. The grant cap's $350,000, so we are right there with the estimated cost for $369 with the additional parking spaces. And if you're not familiar with how the Municipal Park Grant Commission works, it's a competitive point-based system, and you get more point advantages for the less funds you've used in the past 10 years. So if you haven't had a project in a long time, you're really likely to get a project in the future. So the only downside with spending lots of park funds is you may not be as likely to get them in the next 10 years. That's not a reason not to do it, obviously. You should get the funds while we can. But I did want to present both options, but the Park Advisory Board's recommendation was, they were very clear that they thought the addition of the new parking space and the new sidewalk was a good idea.
So where would monies come if other aspects of Hosel need to be addressed?
So we could apply for an additional park grant, or we could try to fund them ourselves with the Parks and Stormwater tax, depending on, in the future, we may be eligible for bond issues. But, yeah.
So the playground could still be a possibility in the future to make it more family friendly.
Yeah, I think the main problem with the playground is some fairly inexpensive items. I think if we fix the benches and some minor wear and tear on it, I don't think we're looking at a large capital expense.
What about that forest area that the gym equipment is overrun with? Is there gonna be any development there?
Well, we're kind of getting off track from the park grant, but I do want to mention another thing that the Park Advisory Board has taken up is pursuing creation of a park master plan. And that's something that will be coming to the council in the next few months. But they're going to apply for a planning grant for that as well and get a consultant. And part of what the consultant would do is they would take a look at what we have. They would do a survey of the community, get a sense of what the people would like to see, and then finally they would look at some of those items and help us identify funding sources. So.
Any other questions, comments? I think this is really gonna dress up the park.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, even resurfacing the parking lot and restriping
Striping.
it itself is gonna look beautiful. So,
And to be honest, that's a big problem that we're having right now. It's not striped and they're just parking up all type of places, double park, triple park.
is there a motion to adopt resolution 23-25?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this one involves spending money. Does it need a roll call vote, Andy?
I don't know, as a resolution, it just needs a,
Okay, thank you.
Voice
All in
vote.
favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, resolution 23-26. A resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into a 3-year contract with iWorks Systems for work order and street management software. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 23-26?
Motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any comments on this? I will say I was a bit shocked at the price, but in a conversation with Sam, I hadn't had the opportunity to ask Dennis about it. His opinion is this will be really, really helpful to manage Public Works daily activities, work orders, what's been done, what needs to be done, keep a handle on our streets, and just, it's gonna be an incredible organizing tool. Like I said, I was shocked at what it cost for software, but apparently it's
Is this the same software
same company.
that Rick is using?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same module, or it's the same software, it's a different set of modules. And so there is some interplay there, having all our modules with the same company. We'll have, a comprehensive map of the city that will tie together permits, code enforcement, public works, basically all in one thing. And this will, and I'll let Dennis add to this if he wants to, but this will really help us modernize our practices. Again, a work order system that's electronic has a lot of benefits for tracking different tasks, big and small. It will allow, employees to send work orders. Someone takes it on the phone, they can send it. And then even an employee, a public works laborer in the field can be assigned a tablet or even just pull it up on their own phone and basically work through the work order on there. And that's one of the large benefits of the program, is that it is web-based. So you can pull it up from anywhere, and we have, I think, pretty much unlimited users. So we've been happy with the code enforcement module. I think this would be a good addition.
Sam,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Sam, are you as city administrator and for considering the department heads that answer to you, are you comfortable that this is a good expenditure? Is this worthwhile?
Yeah, I think it is. For software that's pretty comprehensive, it's not, I don't see as that large of an expenditure. I think it's worthwhile. And
Because I'm kind of reeling from the sticker shock too.
What, excuse me, what was the sticker price?
so it would be $5,000 a year with a $3,300 setup cost.
So $8,000.
So that'd be 8,300 the first year.
Yeah.
5,000.
And 300, 5,000.
So it's 18,300 for 3 years.
So my understanding is that if this were to pass tonight, you've already worked these numbers into the budget that we looked at tonight.
That's correct.
Okay.
And if it's not, then we'll rework those numbers, but.
All right.
And we already have, it set up for Rick already.
Yes.
And it's working well.
Yeah.
So why is there that initial cost? Because it's just a different,
Yeah, the setup for the code enforcement had to do more with parcels. It's gonna have to do with streets and signs as well. Be able to see those on the map. And another area where it will help is once we do have a street assessment done, it will give us a digital and visual place to keep that information and keep it up to date as well.
So do we then have rights to it, let's say in perpetuity?
Yeah,
Is that-
if you terminate, say after the 3-year contract, where you say, we're good, we're gonna take it elsewhere, the file format, which they give you your data, is a very accessible file format.
Okay.
Good, we ran into
makes
that.
sense.
good question.
Yeah, thank you, David. All right, if there's no more comments or questions,
That helps.
we've got a motion already. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor of adopting resolution 23-26?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay. And we have one late application here. Is there a motion to approve the 2023-2024 liquor license renewal by Glen Echo Country Club?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
That's the only one?
Yep, the other three we did it last, yeah.
I'm used to seeing them all at once.
Yeah, that was a late comer. Item 9, discussion of chapter 415 regarding the regulation of signs. David, you have an opinion on this already, I understand.
Yeah, and it's something that I had brought up in discussion last year as well. Piggybacking off what Councilwoman Campbell had mentioned, it would be worthwhile for us as a city to have a scrolling live sign of some kind, a scrolling marquee, an LED sign. We're distinctly behind compared to many of our neighbors, even private organizations in Normandy. So if we could update our signage so that we can keep up with the times, get the message out to our residents, get the message out to parents and families, why should we not?
Don't know where to go.
I will, yeah, and I will say, we have to be careful with whatever ordinance is written, that we don't have Natural Bridge looking like an amusement park either. With arrows and flashing, big sale, blink, 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 blink,
Now, are you talking one sign or two signs?
Well, we could regulate it, but I think that's a concern that
Yeah.
we have to keep in mind.
Yeah, especially for traffic and especially for nighttime driving, for instance, that could be a concern, that could be an issue if we didn't have any safeguards in place and forethought for that, because as was previously stated, we're not directly facing homes and residents necessarily, that it would keep them awake at night.
But other than, I'm thinking of U City, they have it on Olive, and then Northwoods has it on their main.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
indeed.
it may not be,
Are you talking about?
and signs might have something.
We currently have two signs. Are you talking about one LED sign or two?
I think we need two.
Well,
I mean,
we're
that's
not
for
talking
later
about what we
discussion.
do,
Yeah,
we're just talking about the ordinances,
just
should we allow them in the city?
Yeah, because the ordinance now, as it states, we're not,
Okay.
no one is allowed to have a moving sign of any.
I will tell you that Dr. Perry approached me too, they want to do this at,
Petty,
sorry?
Petty.
Oh, Petty, I'm sorry. They want to do this at their administration building there on,
I got you.
yeah. That's something they would be interested in too, an informational sign that you could, would type in your message and it would scroll, so.
How can we?
And we wouldn't, we couldn't allow him to do it because right now it's against our.
How can we regulate it as far as, like you're saying, having
That's-
signs all up and down?
That's the big
normally
question,
and-
that I don't have an answer to. It's gonna require some thought and.
Right.
Yeah, and what I would recommend, if this is something the council is interested in, if we don't like our current sign code, refer it to planning and zoning, let them do the legwork, and they'll bring a recommendation back to the council, and then you guys can work through the ordinance yourselves and change it.
Okay.
So if that's what everybody wants to do, I
Yeah.
would get a motion to refer our sign ordinance to the planning and zoning commission.
I'll make a motion.
There's a motion, is there a
I'll
second?
second
All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Let them do the legwork.
I like that.
Okay, we postponed one item on the agenda, which is the discussion of the city pay plan. So I'll open that discussion right now.
Sam,
Yeah, she has some
I'm sorry,
recommendations.
I couldn't see the pay plan correction that you emailed me. Can you tell me what page I stopped at? I thought it was 17.
I believe the last, so where you left off in the workshop, you had made the recommendations for the change to the performance evaluation form. And those changes were incorporated in the newest version of the pay plan.
I thought I got the CDL licenses.
We had discussed okay, yes, and then we had discussed the CDL license. I believe you were starting on the code enforcement job description.
Okay, yeah,
You were on
17.
Yeah.
Okay, so, on paragraph, okay, 17.
Yeah, 87.
Yeah. Is there a B section? So in the, one of the questions that I had for Sam was, I know in the past, we talked about other municipalities possibly using our code enforcement officer, or if we get additional officers. And so in the job summary, I was wondering if it needed to say that, the municipal code and ordinances that, how would we? Under the supervision of the Director of Public Works, the code enforcement officer is responsible for enforcing the municipal code of ordinances of the city of Normandy and others contracted with Normandy. Do we need to add that, or is that not something that, or is that something that we don't need to worry about? That was my question.
So right now, it's not something we need to worry about because we don't contract code enforcement. For whatever reason, I don't think we're immediately interested in doing so either.
No,
So let's say that we were, it would be a minor change to the job description. And unless it is a change in the job description that would result in a change in classification and pay, it's not something that would even be brought to the council. It would just be changed.
And regarding that, we don't, a code compliance officer is good for the city, but it costs money. To hire that out, I think is probably a money loser.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my opinion, without any research beyond.
The other thing that on page 18, for the iWorks program, it says, in the list of minimum requirements, it says experience with iWorks programming is desirable. Do we need to add that training is gonna be provided if someone isn't familiar with it? Is that?
So
Let
generally,
me
job
address that.
description.
Yeah, these are what's required to come in. It's preferable.
Well, it says desired, it doesn't say required.
Right, it's desired. So, I mean, if we choose to bring somebody in that doesn't have that experience, it would be obviously to our advantage to train them.
Okay, but do we need to add it?
But I don't think so, because it's not a requirement of the job.
If you decide you want to train them, you train them. If not, it's not
Exactly.
required.
And then during the interview process, you're gonna make a decision.
Decision.
Yeah.
Right. How council is for that.
Right, because a lot of people never heard of this Ivy Works
Right.
program.
The other one was the knowledge of computers.
What page?
Oh, same page, under knowledge and skills. Do we need to list the Microsoft programs? Or is Microsoft Office like good enough?
Most people know what you mean by Microsoft Office. I think now it's actually called Microsoft 365.
365, right.
Yeah, so maybe we change it to Microsoft 365.
That covers it all, there you go.
On Microsoft, it's the same thing, just a little bit more things, the same thing.
The other question that I had was actually about the pay classification system.
Okay, separate sheet.
This is a separate sheet.
Oh, I don't have that one.
Yeah, well, that would be on page 2 and 3 of the.
Here it is.
So, this is something that I asked Sam about. On the pay classification system, I calculated by hand,
It's separate.
yeah, I calculated by hand, like each step, with the arithmetic sequence. The problem that came into play was that after so many steps, the calculations weren't correct. They were off a little bit, which eventually made them be off a lot at the end. And it's my understanding, I think what Sam said was that like it was a rounding error in the computer. But one of the questions that I had was, sometimes it decreased the amount a person would get, and sometimes it would increase the amount that a person would get. And so I noted like which lines across didn't calculate like arithmetically, like correctly. Is that something that we need to be concerned with?
Well, how many dollars, pennies are you talking about when if it was a rounding error?
I just circled what was wrong with a red pen. I did not go through and say like, I can grade it like I would be grading a final exam.
Yeah.
But I just said, this is wrong.
Right. Well, but how much are we talking about, over
It was
the
enough, to me, if it's 10 cents and I'm working my job for 10 cents and you don't give me 10 cents for 10 years over time, that's my 10 cents. That's all I'm saying. That's my 10 cents, that's my dollar, I deserve it.
Do we need to
But,
recalculate all this?
but these numbers are the numbers if we adopt this.
If we adopted, these are the numbers. What I'm
Right.
saying is these numbers are not correct.
The numbers are what they are, it's the plan.
Yeah.
And as far as, it's not necessarily a rounding error, and it's just rounding.
I thought that was the conversation that we had.
Well, it was the conversation, but I don't think error is necessarily the right word. When you take an annual salary and you take it to hourly, you take 2,080, because there's 52 40-hour work weeks, that's 2,080 hours. And whenever, not all of these annual salary points are divisible by 2,080, so you'll get, $19.75 and 35, or in 3/10 of a cent. And that will, as you move across the steps, it will, one time you'll jump one more cent, sometimes you'll just one less cent. As far as,
It wasn't just like a cent, I will say that. It wasn't a penny.
well, on the hourly, it would be a penny, and then,
No, it wasn't a penny on the hourly. It wasn't just a penny. I did this by hand. So what I'm saying is, this is my question. Do we want to adopt this as is? And is this okay? Because if I'm a person that's doing this job and you tell me that I'm gonna get 24 cents more every time, and then it starts to decrease and then it starts to, like, to me, is that a legal issue that we need to be concerned about? Or is it okay? That's all I'm asking is it okay?
Maybe I'm not understanding, but we're not saying anybody's getting 24 cents more. The dollar amount is, you're saying the difference between yearly and hourly don't add up.
The amount that they're supposed to like get for each step doesn't add up, because when it goes across.
Yeah, well,
Well, for example, if somebody's got a calculator handy, what's
Yeah, I mean,
$17.24 times 2008?
so.
And how far off is it?
Here's, I can try and adjust for some of this.
No, he acknowledged that, he did acknowledge that it's not correct. He said it's not right.
Well,
But I'm
it-
saying, if
it
it's-
is what it is, so
Is it okay? I'm saying,
Correct.
is it okay that it's not completely correct? I'm posing a question to say, is it okay? I'm not saying that somebody is trying to slight someone else. I'm saying, is this okay? Is this normal practice? If it is,
Let me
and we
ask
all
the
agree,
question
then
so
fine.
that I understand. Should we either adopt the yearly salary or should we adopt the hourly salary if they don't perfectly jive with one another?
Which one we have a problem with, hourly or?
Well, we don't, I don't, go ahead,
Okay,
please.
so if this will help Sam's explanation is that, oftentimes when you're forming a pay plan, you might enter in some numbers, using formulas. And sometimes, if you really want it to include 0.7 or whatever, you'll bring back that decimal point to not show that last, couple cents or whatever. And so it kind of makes it look a lot nicer in a written document versus having 0.3 or,
So,
yes.
I do understand your position. So would this be, and again, should we either be adopting the yearly salary step or the hourly rate step? Which should now, because they may not both be exactly the same as what
So
you're
if it
saying.
was an annual, if it was a salary position, and this is getting down to the nitty gritty, when we input it into the payroll system, if it's an annual employee, we would enter in the annual salary, and then it would break it down per pay. And sometimes it will then round up $10, because across 26 pay periods, it will round up and, let's say they get paid $20,000 a year, maybe they get paid, $20,050 a year, because they round up per pay, because not everything's divisible by 26. For hourly employees, it's the same thing. I can enter in the hourly rate, and it will calculate out what the true annual salary is, basically multiplying it by 28. And it may not match exactly what's on the annual sheet, but we're talking margins of, less than $100 in most cases, less than $50 in most cases. And so, as far as, and maybe Andy can speak to this, as far as liability, what's on the sheet is what's on the sheet, and that's what we'll pay them. As far as, if they have a complaint that step 3 is a 25-cent increase and step 4 is a 24-cent increase, well, that's just what the sheet says. So, I mean, I don't see liability there. And then any rounding error, we're talking about a claim with $50 a year, and I don't see that being really liability at all.
For what it's worth, I haven't heard anything that concerns me about any of this.
Thank you.
Okay. That was it.
All right.
Good catch.
That was a good
Very, very.
Yes, sir.
One question.
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna say this way over my head or anything like that, but, the pay plan, who's going to be, other than the board, I'm sure the board will be involved when there's a raise or anything like that going on in the city? Of course, money, wouldn't it?
So, how it would work as far as the council's involvement, the
Yeah.
council would be directly involved in any department head step increases.
Right.
Otherwise,
You just follow
the
this.
council is adopting this plan,
For the administrator.
and we will administer it as adopted.
Right.
As adopted, and when there's, when you decide to give someone a raise, you'll go back to the council, of course, right?
Yeah, well,
No.
generally, they would get a raise pursuant to the plan. If we wanted to change the plan, because we thought it wasn't working out for a position, maybe we think a certain position isn't being paid enough, that would get taken to the board.
That's what I'm talking about.
But as far as annual raises and merit raises,
It'll be just
no,
me there.
it would just,
The
we would
administrator.
just administer.
Administrator, right?
Yeah, we're adopting a plan for
The
administering
to
that plan.
manage.
Yeah,
He's got a right to manage.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not getting that.
All right. Looking. Let's move on. Are there anyone interested in citizen comments?
You've got someone from the floor that did not sign up on the site.
We'll allow it.
Well, somebody told me the meeting started at 7.
My bad. We didn't want you here.
Anyway, okay, I'm Terry Gannon, in case you didn't know. Anyway, recently I've been talking to the church Murchison over here, and there's been a little unusual activity on their property, homeless people sleeping in the cellar wells. And also the city, you all own that other building right next to the church. And there have been kids sneaking in the backyard of your property, trying to break in your building.
The funeral home?
No,
the
house.
House to the east.
So it might be a good idea to board that up a little better. And I think from now on, instead of yelling at those kids, hey, get out of there, we're just gonna call the police.
I think that's a good idea.
Because if we yell at them and they leave, you can't catch them. Plus, the church has gated their property and with a really tall fence because they've had their air conditioner stolen. And so, but kids have been trying to figure out how to get in that fence. So since somebody has been helping me clean off the fence line, we can now see into your property a little better. But I can't clean off the fence line on your side of the property. And you've got some dead trees in there you might want to use your chipper on. And I think it will help. So the church has cameras in the back of their building. I have cameras, but with the trees on your property, we can't really see everything that's going on back there. And I think those kids know that. I don't know why all of a sudden this has become this big attractive nuisance over there. So,
when we get our new iWorks program, I'll enter that into a work order.
there you go. There you go. So I had some comments on some other things, but then you voted it down, so I'm not even gonna say nothing, so. Okay, that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Ms. Gannon?
What?
I suggest you sell that property behind you. Sell that property.
Well, I can't, conflict of interest, I can't sell anything that belongs to the city. I mean, I can't list
She's
it,
got a
I can
relative that's
sell
there,
it,
so she
I can
can't
sell it, but I can't list it,
I'm
so,
just kidding.
yeah, you gotta talk to
Alright.
somebody else about that,
Thank
so,
you.
okay.
I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session to discuss a personnel and a legal matter.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Closed session.
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Cleveland?
Yes.
Councilman Sachsenheimer?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Evans?
Yes.
Councilman Nelson?
Yes.
Councilman Hong?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosso? Yes. Councilwoman Campbell? Yes.
Ayes have it. Motion carries.
I got it.
Yeah, excitement because the closed session is over. We will. You say it all. We will be quick. We'll be. I don't know, give me that Oh, you want this back? Right. Those are mine are yours. Because I'm like, thank you all. You kept saying you didn't get in. I said, it's in there. You got my phone. I thought it was in green. He's like, I didn't get one. I said, oh, this is mine. Okay. All right, let's do this. All right, I'm going to take a quick break.
The vote will be in.
It probably is in. It passed. It passed. What was the margin?
What was the vote?
It was like